Hi there and welcome.
You're listening to Animals and Us, Voices of a New Paradigm.
My name is Avantika, and I'm a researcher exploring animal consciousness, environmental sustainability, and planetary health. I want to help bring animal perspectives to the table and transform our relationship with the natural world.
And I'm Barbara. I'm an animal communicator and retired veterinarian. My true passion is exploring the hearts and souls of animals and helping people come to a much deeper understanding of who the animals truly are at their core.
This podcast is for anyone who loves animals and nature and has an interest in their own personal and spiritual development. We'll bring you powerful conversations with fascinating people about animal and nature sentience, consciousness, and communication.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey of love, respect, understanding, and care for the fellow beings who share our beautiful Mother Earth with us. Hi, everyone. This is Barbara Shor, one of your podcast co-hosts. And recently I had an interview with a dear friend, Jeff Feinman, who is a veterinarian and a fascinating, innovative, creative guy who has his own program called Holistic Actions that involves a number of veterinarians teaching pet lovers and pet parents about veterinary care and holistic attention for your animals. And it's a really wonderful program. He did recently a summit called Sacred Paws Summit, and I was a guest speaker on there. So the following is my interview with Jeff, talking about my career as a veterinarian, moving into being an animal communicator, and things I've learned along the way. And it was a really fun interview. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Welcome back, everyone, to our conference about an approach to veterinary care that helps pet parents and vets go with the flow of their animals, nature, and all of life. The intention for these discussions with experienced veterinarians, human doctors, thought leaders from around the world is to help us connect deeper with animals, with our pets, and with nature. And with positive actions, increase their resilience, speed their healing, and improve their happiness and quality of life. Veterinarian Jeff Feinman, and together with our guests, we'll delve into the transformative power of unconditional love to increase health span and help the world as well, and help us all get along. And today, it's my great, great pleasure to speak with my dear friend and veterinarian, Dr. Barbara Shor. Dr. Shor is a 1983 graduate from Colorado State University. She went on to do a residency after that at UC Davis. And worked at or did your residency, I'm not sure, at the California Fish and Wildlife Fish and Game Division. But it all changed for Barb in 1990, 89, 90, when she spent a year in Africa. And we'll talk about ways that it changed her life forever. I personally met Barb at a conference a few months ago at the University of Saskatchewan about intuitive interspecies communication and ways to help bring Indigenous wisdom back into our lives to help heal animals and people and the land. Barb, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. I'm so happy to be with you.
let's start with, well, first let me ask you, would you be comfortable sharing the story about getting to vet school and then moving beyond vet school in Africa, perhaps it was?
Yeah. Well, I've always loved animals, as we all do. And I had dreams of Tarzan, living in Africa with the wild animals and meeting this big, muscular, handsome guy, swinging through the bush and the trees. Well, that didn't quite happen, but my interest in school was biology and psychology. I wanted to combine the two, and it turned out to be animal behavior. So that's what I really focused on in school. And I thought maybe I would do a PhD program in ethology or animal behavior. And what I realized is that I would need to teach in a university and always work for grants, and it just wasn't my thing. And so I ended up doing a very practical thing, which is going to veterinary school. And all through veterinary school, I worked with wildlife whenever I could. And when I graduated, I went into private practice for a while and eventually got accepted into this residency program at UC Davis. And it was non-domestic animal medicine. And I did that for a full year at the university. And then later on, I went to California Fish and Game. Now it's called California Fish and Wildlife, for a couple of years and did a deer condition study. And then I went to Africa. And it was the best year of my life, that year spent working with animals in Africa. I worked with Cape buffalo, I worked with wild dogs, and traveled, and it was just amazing. And I came back realizing that I didn't love veterinary practice. And I actually thought it was just because I didn't have enough confidence in what I was doing. I got really overly involved with the animals and worried too much about them and that kind of stuff. So I made a deal with myself that if I went into private practice and I felt competent in what I was doing, and I still didn't like practice, I would leave. And that's what I did after about a year and a half. It just wasn't my thing. So that's when I started studying holistic medicine, the herbs and vitamins and energy medicine and homeopathy. I loved homeopathy. And then I went to a conference of the Holistic Veterinary Association in Hawaii that year. And there was an animal communicator who did an afternoon workshop, Penelope Smith. And when she started talking with the animals, I knew that was my thing. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. So that was really the beginning. And then I didn't take, long, prolonged courses with anyone. A lot of it was just on my own and some weekend workshops here and there. And I learned a lot from the animals. Nowadays, there are a lot of people teaching classes, and that's really a good way to go. It makes it a lot easier. But that's how I started.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. And I'm just wondering, what was it about, and maybe do you know that what was it that you felt practicing as a vet that just didn't feel right?
I thought about that a lot over time after all that training. I think I felt like there was so much more to the animals and so much more to their diseases than what I was taught to believe. And I knew from my own experience that emotions can be the basis of a lot of illness. And through the emotions, we can heal a lot of things. So that was part of it. Also, I was really on a spiritual path that was just kind of starting after vet school. And I knew there was something more that we were missing, and I wanted to know what that was. I wanted to know what are the animals thinking? How are they feeling? What do they need? What do they want to tell us? And so that's really what drove me.
Thanks. I would love to pursue a little bit more of that connection. In vet school, we don't learn anything about animal communication or that kind of connection, and not even that much about the human animal bond or emotions, and certainly not psychology. So, how do you now understand what it's language that you use for yourself to understand how animal communication works?
My sense of that, and there's a whole chapter in my new book about that. I'll show you my book, Soul of the Wild. Soul of the Wild, The Wisdom of Elephants. And they have a whole chapter about telepathic communication and from their perception, how it works. And we're recording an episode on my podcast about that I read that chapter. My sense is that when I can get really quiet, just quiet, let the mind chatter go elsewhere, really tune into my heart, I feel like really love is the connection. Love is what facilitates the connection with animals or anything else to go to a deeper level. And I just get really quiet and I tune in and I send love to the animals and I focus on a particular animal or group of animals and just connect in that way. And I wait for words to come through. My way is through words or image, not so much images, but concepts and ideas that shape into words. So that's how it works for me. And what's been so amazing over the years working with different animals is just how wise, how compassionate and loving, how deeply spiritual they are. And, I feel like there are different levels to us and to the animals. We've got this mundane earthly realm, physical bodies, and all the things we need to take care of on the earth. But then there's this higher plane, the spiritual realm, the soul, whatever you want to call it. And often that's where I go. And to me, that's my dog. That's the most exciting.
You were talking about listening deeply and connecting and communication, what you're hearing when you listen to your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it's my heart and my soul coming together and connecting really deeply. And it's a process, and it requires, I think, a lot of practice too, because it's so easy to think it's my own mind speaking, and sometimes it is. And it's a practice to determine what's my mind and what's coming from somewhere else, another consciousness. And I think that takes a lot of practice, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people to really get clear about how you receive information. People receive information in different ways. Some are a lot more visual, and they just get images. Some see symbols, and they have to interpret the symbols. For me, the way my brain works is it usually translates what I get into language. And of course, the animals don't speak English, but I do. And so I think that's how it works. My brain just translates. And sometimes I'll get these big concepts that come through. I've worked with elephants and whales, and I've got these big concepts I want to relay. And sometimes it's hard to translate that, or I don't quite understand what they're trying to say. So I'll just keep asking. And sometimes they'll give me a story that illustrates what they're trying to get across, or they'll just say it a different way. And so that's how it works for me.
Can you give any examples of stories? Does anything spring to mind? Any demonstrative stories?
I was talking with the Asian elephants one time about the tsunami and how they were able to rescue people, how they knew the tsunami was coming before most people did. And they were able, and they actually did save a number of people. And what they told me is that they're so connected with the earth, and we're not. Most humans are not as connected with the earth. And it's something that could be very important for us as humans to connect more deeply with nature and with the earth and with the animals. It's really important. And they gave me this story about this little boy. His name is Banyu, I think. And he lived in Indonesia by the ocean. And he was a young fisherman. And he fished for his family and to sell fish and that. And he was used to being on the ocean. And one day he went out in his little boat, and there was this huge storm that came in unexpectedly, and it rocked his boat, and he fell out into the ocean. And there were huge waves. And here he finally was hanging on to his boat, but these huge waves and all this current, and it was really dangerous. But instead of freaking out like most people would, he had learned to stay calm because he'd been so connected with the ocean and the earth and everything. And he gradually made his way to land. And it was a really, really difficult journey. Like, he went under a number of times. And finally, he got to shore and he was saved. And I said, okay, elephants, what does that have to do with our conversation? And they said, because this boy was so deeply connected, he was able to stay calm and trust that he would be okay. And it was that deep connection with the consciousness of the sea that helped him stay alive. And I think that that's really an important point, is how disconnected most people are. You think of these big cities, and we live in concrete with buildings and people all around, and there's very little opportunity to connect with the earth. And I think it's really important.
And yeah, one of our speakers is Rachel, that teaches how important earth energy is. She's also a psychologist for people, and tapping into earth's energy and power is going to help with healing of all of us. And many of our speakers actually have spoken about that connection between healing of pets and nature, and healing of ourselves, and healing of the world. And they often relate it to the energy of love. Wondering if you have any thoughts about the energy and the power, the healing power of love.
I think it's everything, it's just everything. And when we can really, really embody that love and project that out to others, we're talking about animals, but projecting that out to the animals, they get it. And they're so good about projecting that back to us. I've spoken with elephants and whales and gorillas and lions and everything, and humans have been so terribly destructive and abusive. And if you think about it, they could just be horribly angry at us, and not want anything to do with us. But so many of them are very compassionate and forgiving, and they just want what's best for all of us. They want to work with us, not against us. And of course, there are individuals that get upset and angry and can do damage, of course. But overall, at the soul level, I find that most animals are very, very loving and compassionate. And they tell me too, the elephants and the whales are the primary ones that I've spoken with, that they know what humans are doing and that there are individuals that can be quite cruel and abusive. But overall, they see us as just these magnificent, creative, gifted beings that have the capacity to change everything, you know?
And I guess we can do that in either direction, either against the world or work with the world, and hopefully we'll develop more and more strategies that work with the body and the world to heal us all in the way that the elephants and our dogs know that we're able to.
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle talks about how the universe and universal consciousness really wants us to create and help things in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what I was wondering, the feeling back in vet school or as a veterinarian, I was wondering if you just, I know when I started on this path, it just feels right.
Yeah.
You just feel it in your heart, the way you don't feel it when you're doing research or clinical veterinary medicine.
Can I tell you a story of
Please.
when I was first starting animal communication? There was a horse who lived in St. Louis. I was in Colorado at the time, and I never met her in person. Her name was Farah, and her person, Joyce, got a hold of me through some mutual connection. Farah had a hoof injury. She had an abscess that had ascended all the way up to upper leg, partially upper leg, and it had gotten worse and worse. And her veterinarian sent her to the teaching hospital. So she was at this hospital for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And they were working on her and doing this and doing that, and she wasn't healing. So they were ready to euthanize her. And Joyce wanted me as a last result to see if I could do anything. So I talked to Farah. And when I got in, when I connected with her, I felt this huge fog, this dark energy just surrounding her. And I couldn't even see that. I couldn't even get to the horse. It was like this fog of negative energy. And I had never done anything like this before, but I just started cutting away at this energy and like with a sword, just cutting it through and yelling and saying, "Get out of here," and everything. Finally, I got to the horse, to Farah. And what she told me is that in the veterinary hospital, there was so much negativity. They kept saying, "Oh, you're never going to make it. You're going to die. This is terrible, blah, 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 blah." All this negative energy coming at her. And then they were doing all this stuff to her. And she was just done, She said, "Get me out of here. Let me just have some peace. No more poking and prodding. Just let me heal on my own." So Joyce did that. She took her home. And at first she got an acupuncturist, and Farah did not cooperate. She was a very strong personality. And she said, "No more poking and prodding." So Joyce kind of left her alone. And it was a process. She had some decubital sores, decubital ulcers for lying in her stall so much, and that had to be treated, and on and on. But within a year, she was up and running, and just this happy horse. And what I learned from that was, oh my God, when we send that negative energy to an animal, or a person for that matter, what does that do? It's extremely harmful. So I think sending love and positive energy and hope and care is a healing in itself. And that's not what we were taught in vet school.
Yeah, come to think of it, that may be the kind of the missing piece about my question about what's missing in vet school. And yeah, it's not mitochondrial energy or metabolism, it's love and caring and compassion. And thank you for putting that into words.
Yeah.
I was thinking this morning, one of Eckhart's talks was about spirituality, and we were right in the middle of having a big storm with, loud thunder boomers and big flashes of lightning and life-giving rain. I would love to hear your thoughts about spirituality, energy, and nature, and how it all maybe is one thing.
Wow. Years and years ago, I read a book by Michael Rhodes called Journey into Nature. He had a series of 3 books at the time, and they were great. And he said something that was shocking to me. He was talking about a storm and how he could get into the energy of the storm and that human energy influenced the storm. So that was just interesting to me. And then when I was talking with the elephants, they kind of said the same thing. And they said they were talking about disasters like the tsunami. And we consider them disasters, but to some, it might be a rebuilding of the land, when land is destroyed. But what they said is that human energy can influence the storm. It may not create it to start, but it can certainly influence the storm. Our energy is connected to the nature to nature's energy, and it can all combine and actually influence weather. Now, I don't have any proof that that's true, but that's what I've been learning about, that we actually do influence the world around us in ways we have no idea about.
And that actually is where I'd love to pursue a little bit more, and that is intention. And that energy follows intention. So I'm wondering, in the same vein of influencing the storms, we can kind of bring it back to animals, because many of our talks are about, healing intention, healing touch for animals. And just wondering, do you have any thoughts about the power of intention when it comes to healing our animals?
Oh, um, yeah, just like the story about Farah, I think intention is really important. It's certainly important when I'm communicating with an animal. My intention is to reach that animal energetically or however I do, but it's also with our animals, if we can intend healing and wellness and well-being, it's really important, and even for ourselves, our intentions, as we know, where attention goes, energy flows, kind of thing. I think it's very true. Yeah. And our focus, not just our intention, but our focus, where we put that energy.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of research now that, that we do influence the outcome of whether it's healing, whether it's, Dr. Bill Bankston and the Bankston method. It's all about, imagining the power of healing, and it actually is measurable in the lab. So that's amazing. So what about using that power to increase our resilience or increase our animals' resilience to things like, there tends to be a disconnect between medicine and healing. And what we're talking about, it's like, well, this is all well and good, but when I'm sick, I'm going to go to the ER and I'm going to get the anti this or the anti that. So, do you have any thoughts about using that love and attention to increase resilience and wellness?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's all the same. What we're intending is what happens. But also, one thing that I want to say is that sometimes we need those anti things. Sometimes we need traditional medicine. If we break a bone, intending it to heal might not be enough, unless we have superpowers. It needs to be set. Or if there's something, especially acute things that we we might need traditional medicine for things. And I think one problem sometimes that people have when they get into all these integrative, functional, holistic methods, however you want to call it, is we can become as narrow-minded as the traditional medicine people. And I think all of it is valuable, but maybe what's missing sometimes is that intuitive knowing about what's best for me, not just trusting the doctor or trusting so and so to figure out what I need, but really checking in and seeing, is this true for me? And depending on our own knowing more and more, our own intuition more and more to know what's appropriate.
And yeah, I mean that's kind of what this whole approach is all about, is not throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Because modern medicine, modern veterinary medicine is amazing. I mean, where we've gotten to is amazing. But in light of that, cancer is increasing,
Yeah.
pet lifespan is decreasing, chronic diseases that keep coming back are increasing.
Yeah.
There's that disconnect again.
Yeah.
I think using both is really going to
Yeah.
be the key.
Yeah. And
Knowing
don't
when
you
to,
think, Jeff, that a lot of these diseases are emotionally and spiritually based?
I think I can say for sure from years and thousands of cases, many of which are documented on the Holistic Actions Forum, that yes, there's no question. I mean, and mindset is huge. I mean, we know that mindset. I mean, we're going to go to human research for a second because I'm not aware of any animal research about age belief. When we as individuals believe that we're old and gonna get sicker and die, that's gonna increase our chance of that happening.
Right.
And Becca Levy up at Yale has determined that, even an 80-year-old person that changes their age belief adds 7 years of life.
Wow. Yeah. But you think about our animals too, our pets. What are we projecting onto them?
And that's exactly where I was about to go. Is that's like when I see the 12-year-old kitty and they say, my vet said he's old, it's to be expected. It's like, well, that's a middle-aged kitty cat. When I turned 60, I started my 60-year journal. Oh, we all, I mean, genetically have ages that we know. We as people should be living well into the hundreds. Cats should be living well into their 20s or
Mm-hmm.
even beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And the power of our mindset, that's Carol Dweck's fixed mindset and growth mindset. But we like to re-spin that a little bit into the regrowth mindset, that you can regrow all the parts of your body. And that's kind of what we need to do, I think, with the earth and with our animals, is help them regrow.
Yeah.
And yeah,
you know what it brings up for me? It's a little off topic, but it just came to my mind. It's animals who are dying. And we're talking about projecting and intention and stuff. And I've seen it so many times when an animal is kind of in its last period of time before it dies. And the person is just holding on so tight. And they want to do everything they can to keep this animal alive forever. And they're just holding on, and the animal suffers a lot of times because they're just starting to get ready to let go, and the person's holding on. And I've seen it when the person finally relaxes and then just accepts what is, and they accept that this animal might die and it's okay. Sometimes the animal actually recovers because that energy of holding on is so strong that it causes illness. So that's been an interesting thing to watch too. Either they'll die, or they can recover. But this holding on so tightly can be really creating negativity for them. Have you seen that?
A lot. And actually, one of our talks is with Monica, who's a death doula, who talks about how changing our mindset really affects the quality of their death. So I'm so glad that you went there, because that's a huge, huge topic.
Mm-hmm.
Our fear of death as the opposite of life, which is, that's misbelief. Death and life are not the opposites.
Yeah.
Death is just, one phase of life. Getting older and dying is part of life. Because death and birth are the opposites. You're born into life, and so yeah, we've seen that a lot, and that fear of death maybe at the core of a lot of the problems that we're seeing with as veterinarians, in that whenever an animal's body is talking to us via symptoms, we're all animal communicators, and that we can see how beam or behavior, energy, appetite, and mood reflected in the animal, or they have a red ear, or they have an itch, or they have other symptoms. We're scared. That scares us. We have to do something. We go from being human beings into human doings.
Yeah.
Gotta do something.
Yeah.
When, just like you said with the dying animals, sometimes the right thing is to stop serving being.
And it's easy to say, just let your animal go. But I know with my own dog, when he goes, I'm going to be a basket case. So it's much easier to talk about, oh, we just let them go, and death is part of life. And isn't that beautiful? But the reality is it's really, really hard,
Let's go, if we could, in our remaining time, talk a little bit about your book. So, you wrote an amazing book, The Soul of the Wild. We talked a little bit about, what the whales and elephants transmitted to you, in that you wrote about in the book. But I would love to go a little deeper as far as, what do you think, or what do they think their purpose on this earth is at this time?
Well, the new book I've written two. The first one was Elephants and Whales, and this new one is just elephants because they asked me to update that, so I did. But both of these animals have told me that their function on the earth is to harmonize and stabilize the energy of the earth, that they work with the grid lines of the earth. And I didn't know what grid lines were they've been telling me this for years. What is that? And they say it's like these fields of energy that crisscross the earth and are parallel to the surface of the earth. And what the elephants told me, that these energy grids, it's like batting in a quilt, where you have the quilt has different squares that are sewn in, and then there's down in the middle of the square. So they're holding the energy, kind of balancing the energy of the earth. That's part of what they do. And then they told me that what they do is the elephants move about on the earth, their big bodies stomping on the earth, and the whales are moving through the oceans as they swim, as they migrate, that they are holding a very clear, strong, we're talking about intention, they hold an intention for peace and well-being on the earth for all beings, for all creatures, all of us. And so they're projecting that energy as they move. And when they send this energy out, one molecule bombards another, and so that energy is being translated or projected through the earth. So that's a lot of what their focus is. And they're really supporting us, all of us, in our own evolution. They're very, very wise souls. And they want to help humans evolve, just as I certainly want to help them have better lives than what we've been giving them.
I guess that brings us talking about animals and us. Tell us a little bit about your Animals and Us podcast.
I'm really excited about our podcast. I'm doing it with Avantika Mather. So we're co-hosts on this. We've been doing it a year now, and we've interviewed some amazing people. We're going to interview you, Jeff. And we've had, if you want to, we've had some really, really interesting people on this podcast. It's called Animals and Us, Voices of a New Paradigm. And that new paradigm is about seeing animals as conscious, sentient, wise, loving beings. And we've had some really interesting conversations. Most recently, I had a conversation with a local Native American man, Dan Wapapa, and he's just wonderful. I spoke with someone who's an animal rights lawyer, and we've spoken with a woman who is a professor and takes dogs, has a program where they take dogs into hospitals and prisons and even vaccination clinics to help people get through these things. We spoke with a woman who lives in Hawaii and works in Hawaii and Bimini, and she's out every day with the dolphins and the whales, and has learned healing techniques through the whales. They've taught her how to work on people. She does her own work, and then she combines that with what she's learned from the whales and the dolphins. So it's been we've met the most amazing people, and it's been really, really fun. And it's ongoing.
And that's on Apple or
it's on Apple and Google and
Awesome.
Spotify and all of those. And the website for our podcast is animalsanduspodcast.com. So you can go there, and we're on Facebook and Instagram, and Avantika's a wizard with these things. I am not. And so she does all the techie stuff, but she's been amazing. And we had most of the interviews, not all, we've done together, and we just have really, really good connection between us and work well together.
Do you mind taking a minute or two to talk about the recent multi-species research conference? You worked with Avantika there as well at the University of Saskatchewan at the conference we met. And you also hosted some amazing panels and discussions.
Yeah.
Can you Would you share a bit about that work? Because it kind of goes to where we're going to end, which is with your current work.
Yeah. Avantika is working with a professor at University of Saskatchewan, MJ Barrett. And MJ, for several years, has been studying animal communicators and animal communication and doing really valid, good research to show what this is about. And this is the second year of this symposium. This one was much bigger than last year, but it's for researchers and animal communicators coming together. And this year it was so exciting. There were over 700 people that registered from this thing from almost every country in the world. And we had talks and, like you said, panels. I was on a couple panels, and just incredible people, wonderful information. And I made a lot of very sweet connections with you, Jeff. That was a big blessing of this meeting. And so it was really great. I don't know when the next one is going to be. They say maybe a couple years, but people can actually access the recordings from this. They're going to make that available pretty soon. And so people can access the talks from the symposium, which is great.
That would be awesome. And actually, maybe by the time this goes live, this interview, that'll be happening, and we can share that with everyone, how they can do that.
Yeah. Okay. Avantika was the coordinator. She did a marvelous job, and also the MC. So she had a big part in this whole thing. Yeah.
It's amazing. Sure.
Yeah.
Anything else about your current work that you want to share?
I'd like to read a quote from the book that kind of pulls together what the elephants wanted us to know. Humans have the capacity to create or destroy on a larger scale than any other beings. Because of this, they have greater responsibility to care for the earth. This is their gift and their challenge. There is hope for this world, and right now is the time for change, for transformation. Spread love, light, compassion, peace, joy, and hope to all you see every day. This will change everything.
What amazing way to end our time together today. Where can people find you? What's a good way to connect with you?
I have a website, barbarashor.com, and that's BARBARASHOR. There's no E. Everybody puts an E there. SHOR.com. And then we have the podcast website, which is animalsandUspodcast.com. So those are the primary ways to reach me. And my book is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and should be in bookstores around the world. And it's also as an ebook. So that's available too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my dear friend. I love you and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been great being with you. I love you too.
We'll see you guys all next time. So thank you for tuning in. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I did. And we are going to end with a brief blessing for the animals. We'd like to end this podcast by taking just a moment to be quiet. And we give thanks and blessings to these amazing animals that we share our lives with. They give us so much and ask for so little in return. We hope that you can keep the animals and all living beings in your heart and in your mind as you go about your day. Thank you so much for being here with us today.